Welcome to chapter 14, War. I was going to go through this chapter in a different way. I made an overlook, whatever it was called, but jumping around, but I decided by title or subject, but I decided not to do that. God wrote it out in this way, so I shouldn't be changing it around. So I gave up on that, but instead now I come to the conclusion that it couldn't possibly be done in one sitting, by me anyway. It's just too much information to keep putting out in one video. So it's going to be a long video on chapter 14. So maybe 3 or 4 sections, certain subjects, and then maybe put it together at the end where it will be available on an MPEG-4 in one large file. But having said that, I'll go into the next thing. I went to sleep last night, night before, preparing for this video, but when I went to sleep, I woke up in the morning and I had a dream, and it says old men will dream dreams, young men will see visions. So it was interesting because what happened in the dream is I remembered it, and I woke up, which generally I don't remember, but my mother, who is long gone, passed away. She gave me a list of things to buy in a store, and a ham and some knitting yarn. And so I went to the store, and I went in there, and I was waited on by a sort of a disgruntled manager, and I asked him where the ham was, and he says it's over there on the wall, by the wall. They're over there by the wall. So I went over by the wall, and I saw this really long refrigerated case with hundreds of hams in it. And so I reached down and I looked and found one that looked pretty good. I picked it up and paid for it. And as I was walking out, I looked to see where it was from or who made it or who cured it and all this. And it had a big name on it, Israel. I went, wow. So I woke up and I was tossing and turning and trying to figure out what could possibly, why in the world would I have a ham with Israel? Because that's an unclean animal as far as the Jews are concerned. You know, I was thinking about it, asking the Lord. I came to the realization that in verse 11 of this chapter, it talks about Jerusalem being under anathema, under a curse. And I believe the curse was put on by the Jewish men at the time of the crucifixion of Jesus, who said, his blood be upon us and our children. That was the curse. There's other curses you can look up that are on the Jewish people. Of course, there's also blessings. But as I thought about it, I'm thinking, well, Israel is polluted. It's a ham that is not to be eaten or touched, but yet here it has Israel stamped right on it, a polluted country that has a history of the Bible, of God's Word, but yet doesn't follow it. It's polluted. It doesn't have a priesthood, and it doesn't have a temple. What it does have are these, on the religious, spiritual side, I suppose you would call it Hasidic, Pharisaic-type Jewish men who walk around with these black suits and hats that have a fur all around it and fedora hats. And here they're studying what? The Torah. But they can't follow the Torah because there's no temple and there's no priesthood. So why do they sit there and study something that they can't follow? It is a question to me. But then Israel also has a lot of super liberal people in it. I go to the Jerusalem Times and the Times of Israel every day, and I see this, the liberal people backing abortion, which is to me unbelievable, and then the homosexual practices that are forbidden in the Old Testament, they lift up and have parades over it. And then they're against the Christians. Not all of them, of course, but there are enough that make life miserable for some Christians. So the Ham, Israel, and a polluted country today. Now we go into verse 3 of 14. We already went through 1 and 2, and that's all we're going to go through is this one verse. And it says, "And the Lord shall come forth and shall deploy against those nations as a day of his battle array in a day of war." Now, the last video I did, Jerusalem, are all the cities of Revelation. So I did the same thing with this word of a battle array, war. And war, polemon, can also be battle. I think in one place it was. And so, and the Lord shall come forth and deploy against those nations. The deploying has to do with the military, getting ready for battle. We see in Genesis 14:4 it says, "And they deployed themselves for war in the Salty Valley." That was where the 4 kings against the 5 kings, the king of Sodom. Exodus 17:10, "And Joshua did as Moses told him, and going forth he deployed against Amalek." And Sihon was deployed against Sihon in Numbers 21:23, Midian, Numbers 31:3, and Babylon, Jeremiah 50:14, and many others. You can look up that word to deploy, and 3904.4. You'll find out all the different places by using our app. And then Malachi 1:4, it says, "A people against whom the Lord deployed unto the eon." This was the only place I could find where it says the Lord deployed into the eon. That was against Edom, a country to the southeast of the Dead Sea, the Edomites. And then, as a day of his battle array, a battle array, we see that in 1 Samuel 17:26, where it says, "For who is this uncircumcised," David says when he's against Goliath, "who is this uncircumcised Philistine who berates the battle array of the living God?" The battle array. So there's a battle array forming, and the Lord will come forth and shall deploy against those nations. So now, going into the book of Revelation, well, that eliminates 2 possibilities, I would think. That would be Rome and Israel today. We'll go through my reasoning for that. Rome wasn't many nations coming against Israel. It was just one nation. Today, all the things that we'll be going through just don't stack up for today. Now, today may be what's mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39, and there may be some things in Ezekiel 30, 38, 39 could be for today, could be for the future. You could argue or bring out both of those possibilities. But now going into the book of Revelation, the first place I found that there was any type of a war or battle was in Revelation 9:7. And it says, "And the representations of the locusts were likened to horses being prepared for war. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of many chariots of horses running to war." That was in Revelation 9:7. But then down in Revelation 11:7, we have the 2 witnesses that are in the holy city, Jerusalem, where the Lord was crucified. And it says, "And whenever they should finish their witness," the 2 witnesses, "the wild beasts ascending from out of the abyss shall make war with them." So the wild beasts will be there at that time. Now, when this is, it could be in time. I'm guessing it's probably before the 1,000-year reign. And then there's a war in heaven next. In Revelations 12:7, it says, "And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels to wage war with the dragon." Well, now that wouldn't relate to Zechariah 14, but it was the next war mentioned. Then the next one after that is in Revelation 12:17, where it says, "And the dragon was provoked to anger against the woman, and went forth to make war with the rest of her seed." And now, this is all the 1,000-year reign. And in the next one, it was in the Revelation 13:5, and it says, "And was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and authority was given to him to make war 42 months, and was given to him to make war with the holy ones and to overcome them." Now, I believe this is before the 1,000-year reign. And then in Revelation 16:14, it says, and these are all sort of a prelude to the war that happens right before the 1,000-year reign. So you see here that all the false prophets, the beasts, and these beings going to war against the holy ones. And then in Revelation 16:14, the sixth bowl, the Euphrates River is dried up north and east of Israel. It says in Revelation 16:14, "For they are spirits of demons, doing signs which go forth unto the kings of the entire inhabitable world, to gather them together for battle of that great day Almighty." Now, we can next go into Revelation chapter 19, verses 11 to 21. Now, we went through this in the last video with the cities, but here we have war. And we'll go through this again to show them this is the condition before the 1,000-year reign. "And I saw the wild beast and the kings of the earth, and their militaries being gathered together to make war with the one sitting upon the horse, the white horse, and with his military. And the wild beast was laid hold of, and with this one the false prophet, performing the signs before him, in which he misled the ones receiving the imprint of the wild beast, and the ones doing obeisance to his image. The two were thrown living into the lake of fire burning with sulfur, and the rest were killed by the broadsword of the one sitting upon the horse, by the one going forth from out of his mouth. And all the birds were filled from their flesh." So the destruction of these beings talks about, but I don't think this is Zechariah, because it says all the birds were filled from their flesh. And we'll see later when we go down in Zechariah that there won't be any flesh to eat. But I'm not going to get too far ahead, so you'll have to we'll wait till get to that spot. And all the birds were filled from their flesh. So this pretty well leaves out Zechariah 14, because later as we go down we'll see where there was no flesh for the birds to eat. Then Satan is loosed from the abyss after the 1,000 years, and then we jump to post 1,000-year reign, and it says, "And whenever the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, Satan will be loosed from out of his prison and will come forth to mislead the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war." And I believe this is what we're referring to in Zechariah, it's my opinion, which is the number is as the sand of the sea, the amount of people or nations. "And they ascended upon the width of the earth and encircled the camp of the holy ones, and the city being loved. And fire came down from out of heaven from God, and it devoured them. And the devil was cast into the lake of fire, where the beast and the false prophet already were." So this, I believe, is what it's referring to in verse 3 of Zechariah. Next, we will go through a period in Zechariah, which I call an interlude. It would be verses 4 on down to 11.